Zion National Park is located in the high red rock country of southwestern Utah. Zion was established as a national monument in 1909 and became a national park 10 years later. It now comprises approximately 229 square miles. The Slick Rock area just inside the east entrance of the park is a strange, jumbled landscape of brightly colored peaks and cliffs. This section of the park road, called the Zion Mount Carmel Highway, winds among landforms that are so bizarre they might almost be mad visions of an alien planet. Checkerboard Mesa, the first of the park's named landmarks on this route, is a nearly cone-shaped formation composed of what's called Navajo sandstone. This thick stratum of sandstone is made up of many horizontal layers of rock. Here, the horizontal layers are cut by vertical cracks, creating a crisscross or checkerboard effect. Some visitors have noted that the surface of the mesa reminds them of a petrified quilt. Late in the year, the vivid yellows and browns of fall foliage enhance the beauty of the landscape here, providing a spectacular foreground for the sandstone formations. Navajo sandstone is seen everywhere in Zion National Park. It's a massive stratum of comparatively soft rock, which in places is nearly 2,400 feet thick. It was laid down about 150 million years ago as dry, wind-blown sand. Over eons of time, solutions of various chemicals percolating down from later deposits on top cemented the sand grains together, forming sandstone. Here in the eastern section of the park, we're in the upper half of the Navajo, which is composed of many distinct layers of rock, mostly light tan to white in color. The lower half of the Navajo, which we'll see shortly in Zion Canyon, is quite different. Since Navajo sandstone is so soft, it erodes relatively easily. The erosive action of flowing water, carrying grains of sand as an abrasive agent, can carve the rock in a striking and unusual fashion. Still, quiet pools of water like these barely suggest the power of the floods that may surge through here during heavy rains. Among the most bizarre products of erosion are Zion's peculiar hoodoos. These eccentrically shaped formations were created when a harder layer of caprock on top prevented the layers of softer rock underneath from eroding away. Given enough time, however, erosion will eventually conquer the hoodoos. This fallen chunk of caprock marks the collapse of one of these geological oddities. Near the start of our descent into Zion Canyon, a short trail leads to Canyon Overlook. This viewpoint provides one of the finest panoramas in the entire park and gives a preview of the almost dizzying series of switchbacks that lie just ahead. The Zion Mount Carmel Highway was considered an engineering wonder when it was completed in 1930. It connects the high country of Checkerboard Mesa and the hoodoos with the floor of Zion Canyon. 2 tunnels had to be drilled and blasted out of the solid rock of the canyon wall. The lower tunnel is over a mile in length, and 5 huge windows provide ventilation. As we emerge from the tunnel, it's clear that we're well along in our descent to the canyon floor. To the northeast, the Great Arch of Zion stands out boldly on the rock wall. The highway covers an elevation change of almost 2,000 feet in about 11 miles. The visitor center in Zion Canyon is the focus of activity in the park. The building is dwarfed by the high walls of the canyon that stretch upward on all sides. Here you'll find interpretive exhibits on geology and other subjects of interest. The center is located about a half-mile from the park's south entrance. The area near the south entrance is dominated by a rugged, pointed peak, appropriately called the Watchman. Its steep, fluted sides rise above the mouth of Zion Canyon. Below the Watchman is the most significant natural feature here. This is the Virgin River, nature's principal instrument in the carving of the canyon. It scarcely seems possible that this apparently inconsequential stream, lovely though it is, could have carved anything as vast and splendid as Zion Canyon. However, with hundreds of thousands of years in which to work, the Virgin River and its tributaries were indeed the chief erosive agents responsible for carving the canyon to its present depth. But the work was not done by flowing water alone. Small grains of rock carried by the water acted as abrasives, scouring deeper and deeper into the sandstone stratum. This process continues today. In the course of a year, the Virgin River carries more than 1 million tons of rock fragments out of the park. Many other factors besides the erosive power of the river have contributed to the shaping of Zion Canyon. In particular, the weather. Wind, rain, and frost loosen tiny particles or even huge blocks of sandstone, which follow the law of gravity and eventually are reduced to a form in which the river and its branches can carry them away. Some of the grandest views of the spectacular results of river erosion are found near the visitor center. This range of cliffs and peaks is appropriately known as the Towers of the Virgin. The broad, flat-topped West Temple is so vast, the viewer feels tiny before it. The altar of sacrifice, with its long streaks of blood-like red rock, rises 3,500 feet above the floor of the canyon. Although Zion Canyon is the best-known part of the park, several outlying areas have great appeal as well. There's even a petrified forest here, in the southwest desert section of the park. Our trail starts at State Highway 9 near the town of Rockville. This section offers a fairly easy and very scenic hike, past some painted desert formations. At this point, Zion Canyon is on the far side of the West Temple at the center horizon. The Petrified Forest Trail, best in spring and fall, is ideal for those visitors who like to get away from the busier areas of the park. All that remains of an ancient forest that grew here millions of years ago are scattered blocks of petrified tree trunks. Over eons of time, once living things have been turned to stone by complex geological processes. In the northwest section of Zion National Park are the Kolob Canyons, reached from an exit of Interstate Highway 15. This is a spectacular landscape of red rock cliffs and buttes, quite different from Zion Canyon, but equally dramatic. The Kolob section features a cluster of deep, narrow finger canyons. The Taylor Creek Trail is the most popular of several fine trails in this section. Besides the superb scenery through which it passes, hikers are also treated to a touch of history. This is the Larson Cabin, a settler's home dating from the 1930s, before the Kolob section was added to the park. This area offers adventurous visitors a chance to get away from crowds and traffic and to enjoy some of the less well-known wonders of Zion. Those who like backcountry driving will find some exciting roads in the more remote sections of the park. The Kolob Terrace Road climbs high up to the mesa top, yet still loftier peaks rise above it. An unpaved spur road leads to Lava Point. The fire lookout on top is at an elevation of nearly 7,900 feet above sea level. From here, there's a stunning vista to the southeast, showing the generally flat plateau cut by distant Zion Canyon. Binoculars can bring the canyon closer, showing its sheer vertical cliffs in a striking new perspective. The Zion Canyon Visitor Center is the ideal place to start a tour of the heart of Zion National Park. You can pick up maps and literature here, and a variety of services is available year-round. Park personnel are happy to answer questions. These long streaks are conspicuous in certain places on the canyon walls. Minerals in rain and snowmelt are left here in the form of stains when the water runs down the face of the cliff and evaporates. The park's main road is always close to the bank of the Virgin River. As we head farther into the canyon, the cheerful sound of this splashing stream reminds us that flowing water created the wonders in stone that rise on all sides. And rise they certainly do. Here on the canyon floor, we find we have to look up at virtually everything. Cliffs and peaks soar upward to the sky. In Zion Canyon, the horizon is always far above us. We're deep within a handsome and narrow retreat that seems pleasantly isolated from the rest of the world. Zion Lodge is centrally located in the canyon. A wide range of fine accommodations is offered, and all visitor facilities are available. One of the most popular easy trails in the park begins opposite the lodge. An arching footbridge crosses the river near the start of the walk to Emerald Pools. It's actually the small waterfalls here spilling over the sandstone ledges that most interest visitors. The trail to the upper of the three Emerald Pools is fairly strenuous. But those who make the climb find a secluded rocky setting that can convey a peaceful feeling of remoteness and solitude. As we travel farther into the canyon, the scenic drive passes one of the most famous mountains in America. This is the Great White Throne. If Zion may be said to have a symbol that identifies the park, this is it. Just across the Virgin River is another well-known Zion landmark, Angel's Landing. The trail to the top of this striking red sandstone monolith presents a fine challenge for adventurous climbers. This is a strenuous trip, but providing you're fit, it's a special pleasure to leave your car behind and strike out on your own. And the views from the summit are superb. In the lower canyon, directly under the sun now, the Virgin River is a thin ribbon of silver. On this high vantage point, the two distinct halves of Zion's thick stratum of Navajo sandstone can be seen easily. The upper is tanned to white, the lower is red. From the canyon floor, little of the upper half is visible. Many of Zion's religious place names, like Angel's Landing, were given to the features by a Methodist minister. If the Angel's Landing trail seemed a little tricky in places, some visitors accept infinitely greater challenges. Technical climbing is popular in several locations in the park. For those of us who like to keep our feet on solid ground, Zion offers many hikes of varying degrees of difficulty. The Hidden Canyon Trail leads past some fascinating geological oddities, and there are fine views along the route. Many of Zion's trails were originally built during the 1920s and were later improved by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Some are marvels of construction. These switchbacks are on the Observation Point Trail. Cable Mountain gets its name from its connection with the early history of the area. The climb to the top gives a bird's eye view of a turnout on the scenic drive, and in the foreground, a spiky formation called the Organ. This cable hoist is all that remains of a lumber operation begun in 1901. The machinery was used to lower timber down from here on the plateau. There's a particular exhilaration in climbing to a high point above the canyon for these dramatic views. But for most visitors, the countless wonders of the canyon floor offer unlimited satisfactions. And at the upper end of Zion Canyon, there's lots to see. Here, the sandstone walls are closer on both sides. The river is at our feet, and our attention is focused directly on the two primary elements of Zion, rock and water. The heat of Zion's summer, the vast expanses of bare rock, and some of the vegetation indicate that this is arid country. In spite of that, however, there's a great deal of flowing water here, and the combination of water and time have shaped the scenery. The elements of rock and water are combined in a particularly interesting way at Weeping Rock, reached over a short, easy trail. The rock is actually a large niche at the base of a high cliff. Weeping Rock illustrates a phenomenon at Zion known as the spring line. Navajo sandstone, besides being soft, is very porous. Rainwater and snowmelt filter down through it readily. When the water meets a denser, non-porous layer of rock, it's forced to flow horizontally. The place where the porous and non-porous rock meet is called the spring line. Here at Weeping Rock and elsewhere in Zion, the water flows out of the rock at the spring line and spills down the face of the cliff. The amount of falling water here varies with the season, and at times can be quite heavy. Near Weeping Rock is a prehistoric Pueblo Indian storage bin built of rock and clay. Zion has additional evidence of early Pueblo occupation, mostly in inaccessible areas of the park. The Zion Canyon Scenic Drive ends at a natural rock amphitheater called the Temple of Sinueva. The sheer walls of this great rotunda enclose a grove of trees and seem to support the bright blue dome of the sky. Through the center of the temple flows the river, past a tall stone column known as the pulpit. This place has the calm, protective air of a sanctuary, as if all of nature were able to meet here in harmony. But nature isn't always serene. She's unpredictable and often violent. A sudden storm is moving across the high plateau above Zion Canyon. And in the canyon, the rain has changed the gentle falls at Emerald Pools into an enormous flood. The canyon walls have become a miraculous vision, a wonderland of waterfalls. The Virgin River, now swollen to a flood, at last looks like a formidable erosive force. The stretch of river just upstream from the Temple of Sinueva is called the Gateway to the Narrows. There's a fine trail here offering a chance to enjoy the river and the high rock walls that are close on both sides. Along the route are the hanging gardens. This, like Weeping Rock, is a feature of the spring line. Hardy plants decorate the mossy walls. The trail ends at a lovely spot where there's a small grove of trees and the river sparkles in the sun. This is often a good place to see a very unusual bird, the water ouzel. Ahead of us, still farther into the depths of the canyon, are the Narrows. The river itself is our only trail as we head into the heart of Zion. The National Park Service carefully monitors conditions on the Virgin River. Occasionally, the Narrows are closed to hikers because of the threat of flash floods. In this watery route, the river's surge presses against our legs, and footing on the bottom is rough and slippery. The familiar security of dry land is gone, and we realize that the river is controlling our steps. We've entered a strange and breathtaking world. The canyon walls seem to press closer, and the rush of the river fills our ears. Far overhead, only a thin band of sky can be seen. Even the sunlight is changed as it filters down from above. We're wholly within the captive embrace of the river. Here there is only rock and water, the primal elements of Zion Canyon. Even in the wider stretches of Zion Canyon, afternoon shadows come early. As soon as the sun slips down behind the crest of the west wall, evening has come to the canyon floor. The high peaks are still brightly lighted, framed now by trees that are fully in shade. Appropriately, the river reflects the last of daylight. Flowing water created the canyon, and it continues its endless labor. The river was the beginning, and its work has no end.